Order here, so we
Good.
can get rolling. You just got back from a little tour of Europe, right?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh, really well.
Really
It
well.
was fun, you know. It's funny because it's a pleasure because you're seeing, you know, a different culture. You know,
Right.
there are some differences. Although you're also seeing sort of creeping world culture, you know,
Yeah.
of rock and roll and MTV. But it's interesting. On the other hand, you're working and touring, so you just sort of catching glimpses of it as it goes by.
Do you find European audiences relate and respond to your material and your music as well as Americans?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Although there is a language, there's a difference in initially there's sort of a difference in the comprehension, or you would assume that there would be. But I mean, I think my fans when they get into my music, knowing pretty much. I don't think that's actually like a barrier because they just finding out as much as they can about the song.
Right.
I mean, I'd say it's more of a barrier in Japan where not only is the language a very different language, but a very different culture,
Sure.
and there's certain concepts and certain references that don't even translate. So you have to make an effort in the translation to somehow bridge that, or
Right.
But the Japanese make up for it with their the incredible ability to collect other cultures and understand them in depth. They are sort of super students of the world.
Did you play over there recently as well?
Yeah, we were in Japan also.
Oh, okay. Surefire, your publicist, I guess, they sent me some of the early reviews from this tour, which have been very good, sensational reviews. How would you describe yourself as a live performer? Everybody, I think if people hear the name Jackson Browne, the first thing they think of is songwriter, and to see reviews of your live shows, being written up as positively as they've been. How would you describe yourself as a live entertainer?
Well, I've always, I tell you what, I think there's something very, very transcendent about live shows, in that you're able to play the best of what you've written, and you're able to go from one period of time in your life to another very quickly. It's like you're sort of, in a way, it's sort of a gathering up. It's almost like a best of. So I play songs from, every period of my life, and I also, I have a great band, and I've always had great bands, but this one is probably, I'd say this is the band I've played with, the most cohesive and the most sort of, I've had great fortune, and I've always tried to perform the songs pretty much with a lot of, with the same musicians that played them on the record,
Right.
So this band is the band that's on my last two albums.
Okay, and they were on the last tour with you as well.
Yeah, that's right.
How did that help you in the studio and in the whole process of writing?
Well, this album came out of touring. This album, Looking East, is really made up of music that was. It's sort of founded on music that came to us very spontaneously in sound checks and rehearsals, and so it's very collaborative. We like the music you hear these guys playing on stage is music that they came up with, But to a great extent, that's always the case, I just think that in this case, I was able to get a head start on the writing process by writing songs out of what we do when we're having fun, as opposed to writing a bunch of songs and bringing them to the band and then having them adapt those songs, or learn to play them.
Do you still enjoy this part of the business, Jackson, of touring around the country and the buses and the hotels?
Yeah, I do. It's a challenge. The challenge to do it right, and we're good at it, I mean, when I say that, I mean you wanna. I'd say that joy is at the highest premium. Your enthusiasm for what you're doing is kind of, it can be the first casualty if all things are not right. If all things are not, if you don't have the right players, if you don't have the right crew. I mean, I got people in my crew that have been touring with me for as long as some of the musicians have, or longer even, and we just pride ourselves on putting together the. Oh, hang on a second. I'm going by this incredible billboard on the Mass Pike that was put up by a group that we're doing a benefit reception for tonight.
Oh yeah, they're doing that here too.
Stop Handgun Violence, and that I've seen pictures of it, but that's the first time I've ever seen it. Yeah. Well, back to what we were saying. You know, it's a challenge, and it's a very worthwhile. It's a very worthwhile challenge because, in fact, playing live is what it's all about. It's when you get the most back from an audience. It's when you actually come into contact with what the songs.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of these songs, you know, rolled up under multiple listenings. You know, and
yeah.
Oh, I'm about to lose you, man. I might lose you in this tunnel.
Okay. Well, hang on.
We're halfway through it.
I still got you. Let me ask you another question, and you can think about it maybe while you get.
Well, wait. I'm going to finish that. Can you wait 1 second?
Sure.
Stop somewhere before the end. Sleep, you know.
Yeah,
it's like it's just sort of it's a discipline really, and then also how to sound check and how to we keep everything very very fun, you know, by playing new music every afternoon. We just sort of, you know, we sound check for the shows, but we also play a lot of new groups and just explore each other musically in the afternoon. So yeah, it's the whole. I think the point is to stay fresh and to have the capacity for joy throughout the show, and the audiences are really, you know, they vary from place to place, but they generally, like our MO is the same. We try to do the best show we can, and given that the audience, you know, we let the audience be themselves, you know. And it's interesting because the audience is very, in many ways, and then they're also, you know, very consistent.
Right. Are you on your way to sound check now?
Right.
You've written a lot of different types of songs. Some of them are very introspective, and some of them are very observational. What do you prefer, or what comes easier to you? Or is it neither?
I think they're both parts of, you know, they're both just components of a life. You know, you know, there are times when you're very reflective and you feel the job really is to express yourself and to talk about whatever you're going through.
Right. I mean, I've even reading through some of the stuff that was sent to me by Surefire. It said like the 80s was more observational, the 70s was more introspective, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know if it's fair to
I wouldn't say that
a whole record that way.
I wouldn't say that that's true of everybody or in general. I think they're saying that in my case, in general, I was more introspective and more introverted, I suppose, and less aware of what was going on around me or in the world, you know. In general, but you know, that's what happens in life. I mean, I just, you know, like you grow up, you have kids, you the actual, you know, fabric of life changes from, you know, like in various different times of your life, and suddenly you find yourself reading about. I mean, I found myself being very, very interested in social questions suddenly in the 80s, where I suppose it happened gradually. I mean, my involvement in No Nukes concerts and social issues, you know, was sort of gradual, but it suddenly sort of appeared in my music. So I don't know. I think more is made of that than it's really valid. I think that people tend to make a little too much of that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you probably just write what you feel at the time, and without any conscious decision.
Well, I know that I didn't really feel like. I mean, at a certain point, you also tire of certain subjects, and you can figure that you've covered.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing I want to do is go on writing The Pretender over and over again. You know,
right.
I mean, that once was enough. Matter of fact, I have a thing about not repeating myself. I know that you're going to repeat yourself anyway, even if you make it a point not to. So.
Right.
But to set about. I mean, the first thing I heard when I was writing songs and I started to record was, oh, write another one like Take It Easy, write another one like Dr. Browne. And I just tell them it doesn't work that way. You don't set out to write something that you know and know what you're going to write. It's an act of self-discovery, and you have to set out trying to describe how you feel. Well, thank God I don't feel today the way I felt 20 years ago. I mean, but some of these experiences and feelings are universal, and they're things that come back to you again and again in your life. Some themes are recurrent in your life, but I mean, a song like For Every Man was very much a revisitation of the idea that what I was talking about in the album before, a song called From Silver Lake, about sort of getting up and leaving, and like going off in search of sort of utopian, a better life, maybe not utopian. Yeah. And then and so anyway, see, you keep examining themes. In a way, I still sort of, what I came up with next on For Every Man was what I still sort of stands for what I believe, which is that we're all in this together, and you can't really go off to some idyllic, or you can't go off by yourself and live in a ideal situation, because you're connected to everybody else in the world, on the planet. Sure. I mean, there's so many things about so many aspects of the way we live now that encourage us to be isolated from one another, and to try to take care of ourselves first, and don't, I find that it's good to remind myself, and that we're all here together. Yeah. Anyway, those themes sort of come back again and again. Something.
You said something when you're talking about the no nukes, and it's one thing that I've noticed about you and your career. You clearly have no problem using the entertainment stage as a platform for your theology, your political beliefs, or whatever. And I have no problem with that, by the way. I think it's great. But do you feel that that's a responsibility that you have, or a privilege that you have because you're an entertainer?
It's just an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, and I don't think that it's the responsibility of per se. I just think that you have an opportunity to communicate, and I take that opportunity, whether I was a musician or a photographer or a journalist or a school teacher or it's interesting because some people, I have the freedom to say, in fact, I'm expected as an artist to say what I think and say what I feel. And there are others. Matter of fact, I was just listening to an interview of Allen Ginsberg the other night, and a guy who was a civil servant called up and commended on him upon his outspokenness and on his voice, and as a poet, talking about those things which were universal and encouraging people in various directions. And he said, for those of us who don't have the freedom to do that because of our positions, because of our jobs, I thank you, and I thought about it because maybe for the first time, it's not everybody has not everybody feels that they have the freedom to comment on,
right, or the platform,
Could be heard. So, but I think it's part of the, I just think it's part of the musician's job, the songwriter's job, to think and to feel and to communicate about the nature of life. And if some of these things are specific political questions, that's actually a bigger challenge than anything, to talk about stuff, because everybody thinks that everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a very, 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 firm opinion about most political things,
right.
and so, whereas it's not a vague thing like love, it's and it's not specific political issues give rise to very specific, factional, beliefs and thinking. So it's hard to write a song that communicates with a lot of people on political subjects, which does not mean that it's impossible or that one should not try to do it.
Yeah,
it's just a challenge.
Those that disagree.
Yeah, it's just fun. I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I really like your music. By the way, I really disagree with you about, but I've always really liked your music."
Well, your the No Nukes concert obviously hit home big time in Pennsylvania here.
Yeah.
Where that happened. Surely
right in the wake of 3 Mile Island.
Right. And I mean, I'm probably 100 miles from Harrisburg, and that's not too far. That's a little gust of breeze from evacuation.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody knows that it's really unsafe, and everybody knows that there are financial, economic reasons why these utilities would continue to invest in something that they're already so far invested in, and that they keep trying to conjure up the idea that eventually the problem of disposing of the radioactive waste will be solved. But I mean, they haven't yet. It's been a long time.
And the lifespan on that years is 100,000 years or something like
280,000.
280,000 years.
But I mean, now with Chernobyl and so many other disasters, having made it so obvious, I think everybody recognizes the fact that it's dangerous. And at the time, we really felt like, I guess speaking for me and Bonnie and Graham and the other musicians that did this show, we really felt like we needed to get the word out. And it got out really quick. It really did. I mean, matter of fact, in the year that we spent planning these concerts, we went from thinking we had to tell people the first thing that they would ever hear about it to thinking that they already knew about it. By the time the concerts came around, 3 Mile Island happened.
Right.
And also, we didn't do it in response to 3 Mile Island. We were already planning to do it.
Right.
We did this. We were involved with.
I read that somewhere.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years before that. But I mean, since when 3 Mile Island happened, also there was a movie that had also been in production before that. It was called The China Story.
Right.
And that movie really did a lot to raise the question. There was a lot of there was a lot of talk about it on talk shows and news programs and stuff. People were really talking about it. And of course, you always have the odd, the executive of the utility that's willing to go down there and drink, go down there and drink water from the cooling, or just do something. Say, my family and I are down there. And those are company guys that are so invested, they just don't even, they cannot be considered in the right mind. They go down there.
There's totally. I took a tour of the one here in Berwick, the Susquehanna power plant, which is really about 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And they had an accident last week, minor one. It was minor one. Something shut down, and it made the news as a third story. It wasn't even a top story in the local news. But I've toured it, and these guys, they take you through here, and they say, we only let them work in this room for 1 hour intervals, whatever. And I'm thinking, this is insane.
They give you the sort of company line, as far as safety goes, and they have public relations. Departments like anybody else. It's obvious that there's so much that can go wrong, and so much that does go wrong that you never hear about, and then it's covered up and eventually known. I mean, the history of all those things is very well known now. Very well public. And I just think that to write music about it, it's very hard to write a song about nuclear power, and I know John Hall wrote a decent song about it, but I mean, once there's one of those, you don't really want to hear another one. Like Holly Near said, people expect that she's going to be singing 900 verses about fuel rods, and it's not. You can't do that.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're involved in a struggle, to create some sort of social change, it's natural that it's going to enter your music in some way.
The last time you were here, this is maybe a lighter question. I reviewed your show at Montage in Scranton 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember this show. I'm going to try and jog your memory. Out of all the shows that I've covered as a music writer for here at the paper, it was the worst thunderstorm.
Oh, that's the one that we got rained on. You
got rained on, and the lightning was flashing over the mountain. This was on the bottom of the ski slope, this venue. And the power knocked the whole stage right off. The whole stage went black for about 5 seconds, and then the power came back on. You guys were all playing perfectly in time. you had just played through the outage, so that when the power came back on a few seconds later, you were all still right there in the song. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen at a show.
We don't stop for just anything.
And I was wondering if you...
Matter of fact, I tell myself sometimes, when I'm listening and we're playing, and I think to myself, and it's a rare occasion, but I'll think to myself, this is not really happening. I don't really like what I'm hearing, and a little voice in the back of my head said, well, Jackson, see how bad it would sound if you actually stop right now. And it does. It's completely, you don't realize how much is in motion, how much is in play when you're playing.
Oh, yeah.
You stop a song, and you stop in emotional and the intellectual process of all these people and all that's engaged, your rhythm and your time and your feeling and stuff. So, because the challenge is to like really play in all kinds of conditions, you know, and to try to something like a thunderstorm.
It was bad lightning. I thought these guys are going to happen. Do you remember the show I'm talking about?
When it's unsafe, we'll stop. You know, I mean, we used to have guys in the truss, you know, up above the stage. They used to be like before they had things called Very Life. They had people operating spots, and like we had like 8 guys sitting in the truss, and that was when we'd have to stop and get them down out of it because we've had to stop a few times. But refresh my memory, that didn't actually shut us down.
No,
we actually got to play pretty much.
You played the entire show, but at one point it was thundering and lightning so hard during the show that the power blacked out on the stage for about 5 seconds, and when it finally came back on, you were still right there in the song. It was kind of funny. I mean, the place got dark and everything was gone, and then it all came back on, just like in your house when it goes off for a few seconds.
You just kept singing.
And you were still remember that. You were still writing the song. It's pretty funny. If I see you on next weekend backstage or something, I'll bring you a review of that show.
Cool. I'd like to see that.
Do you feel sometimes in the last couple of years that some of your name has popped up so much in regard? I don't want to talk about the details of it, but your personal life, people have begun to think of you equally for that kind of stuff as much as your music. And does that bother you?
I really don't know how people listen to me. I think certainly that kind of notoriety and fame is. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the truth and what to be known for something that you didn't even do, you know, is certainly disconcerting. But I think that people who know my music think of the music. I don't think that they're did well enough.
Sure.
On personal fortune, you know, as a celebrity, you know, and I think all that stuff. I mean, it's never that kind of a celebrity. It's not like and as if I'm really famous for being famous, and I don't think that, you know, there's no way for me to really know how all that works. I mean, how I fare in terms of the general population.
Okay.
There's no way to know.
Is your name Jackson? Is that a family name that you were given it as a first name?
No, it's my second name. It's my middle name. My first name is Clyde. And when I asked my father why he called me Clyde, because his name is Clyde, and his father's name is Clyde, he said, "Relax, buddy. You could have been named Life. They were going to name you Life."
Life?
Yeah, because my mother's side of the family is Scandinavian.
Okay.
So they wanted to have a sort of Scandinavian name.
Oh, okay.
So my father said, "Here, try this." My name. He went by Jack.
Okay.
He said, "So we'll observe the Scandinavian customs, naming the son after the father, like Eric is the father of Erickson, like name Erickson, Life Erickson."
Right.
They said, "I got you named Jackson. You should be happy. You know, take it and be grateful."
And it's your middle name, Jackson.
My middle name.
Okay. What can folks coming out to the amphitheater at the lake? My last question for you. I know you probably got a roll. Expect to hear and see. Are you going to be playing a good portion of stuff off Looking East as well?
We play quite a few things from Looking East, and also play as a kind of a healthy selection of really old songs. You know, I'm enjoying playing some songs that I haven't played in many years. So
great.
They're not exactly the same old songs as we played that last time. But you know, people call for songs. And there's some people that didn't see us 2 years ago that come really wanted to hear something we did. And sometimes, you know, people call for songs and we do it. But as you know, as a band, we're really a band, and we like to. There are certain songs that we're playing because like the band really wanted to play "Rock Me on the Water." Just said, "Hey man, you gotta learn that song." They dig that song so, and they hadn't played it before, you know. And that's a song I haven't played for a long time. And there are a few others that I should prize. But I mean, I would play in a way. It's sort of it's a version of your best of it, your greatest hits. Anytime you do that, because you're mixing old songs and new. And there's some songs they play that are always. I don't even know how to go out and play that. fun show. So.
You're still having a good time with it?
Yeah, yeah. It's something about the crowd, but something about the interaction with it. I mean, it's something, the order that we play the songs into, generally leads up, it's always, pretty, pretty euphoric, at the end of the show.
I appreciate you calling, Jack.
Thanks, Alan.
And,
so if you do come,